Hello and welcome to iTalks, brought to you by iCAD. iCAD is a platform dedicated to expanding knowledge, exchanging ideas, and advancing well-being in the addiction and mental health industry. iTalks brings you courageous conversations presented by Christoph Sauerbein, Sophia Capria, Minta Johnson, and today's host, Sam Quinlan.
Good morning. I'm Sam Quinlan from iCAD, and we have the pleasure of interviewing some of our participants, our speakers, and the organisations that are joining us from around the world to share their knowledge and expertise in different therapeutic models. So this morning I am joined by Eagala, which is very exciting for me. I'm a great advocate of equine assisted therapy, and Eagala stands for Equine Assisted Growth and Learning. And with me this morning is Carrie Khan, who is the European and Middle East Regional Director for Eagala. Morning, Carrie.
Morning, Sam. Thank you for the invitation to join you.
It's a pleasure. I've got all sorts of questions that I'd like to ask you. You've just returned from a conference. I think it was probably around about your 12th conference, but how long has Eagala been going for? Where does it originate from?
So Eagala originates from Utah, the United States, and it has been going since 1999. So this year we celebrated our 20th year at a conference we just had in Kentucky. So yeah, very exciting, very exciting.
So in those 20 years, there has been so much growth. And I remember back when I started with equine therapy, that very much there was an opinion, would it last? Would this be a fad? Would it be a novel treatment process? But looking through and learning more about where you are today, I mean, your statistics are incredible. Would you like to tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So we had a little giggle actually at the conference because the founder, Lynn Thomas, shared with everyone that it started off as a bit of a hobby and started off in I think there was her and one other therapist and one pony that they used in a backyard. And they were kind of like, well, where will this go? How will it develop? But obviously they saw and recognised the impact of having the horses in that therapeutic process. So fast forward today, 20 years, we have around 600 programs globally that are up and running and serving clients. We had over 60,000 clients served in 2018. We're just collecting our data for 2019. So yeah, quite a significant population. We have around 2,500 practitioners globally delivering these services in 40 different countries. So yeah, it's very exciting.
It's incredible. So I suppose for people that are watching this and want to know a little bit about the model of Eagala and how you can either be a member, you can train, or you can actually bring in services to maybe an additional service. If you could just give us an overview of how the Eagala model works, that would be really useful.
Yeah, sure. So Eagala as an organisation, we train and certify qualified professionals in how to work with the Eagala model of equine assisted psychotherapy. So it's a team approach and it has two practitioners. We have a mental health practitioner. So that is someone who's already qualified as a mental health practitioner. So a degree level qualification and a member of a professional association. So we're not training people in how to do mental health. We're just training people in how to apply the Eagala model to what they already do in their practice. So how to incorporate horses as a therapeutic partner in the process of working with clients. So we have trainings all around the world. So we have 5 trainings in the Europe and Middle East region this year. So we have training in the UK, in Belgium, in Ireland, in Germany. So yeah, there's opportunities that we do have a pre-training webinar as well, which can be viewed online. And this tells you more about the organisation, what our standards are, what the prerequisite are for qualifications before coming to the training, and then what you get as part of the training and the support afterwards.
I understand. And from that, you build up a membership of both the horse professional and the mental health professional, and also a list, I imagine, of different teams around the world. So if, for example, there was an addiction treatment center or there was a young person's facility that wanted to look at incorporating equine assisted psychotherapy in their program, they have sort of a couple of alternatives. They can train up their own staff, but could they also call on Eagala to help them look for members or organizations that could maybe affiliate and provide the experience for their patients or their young people? Is that possible?
Yes, absolutely. So we have on the Eagala website, which is eagala.org, we have a find a program section which highlights some of the programs that we have in different areas. But you can always contact myself as the regional director for this area or head office, and we can connect depending on the needs. We can look at our certified membership base, what they specialise in, and match people up. And absolutely, yeah, they can train staff up, and there's opportunities to go and attend demonstrations or visit practitioners that are up and running, just to get a little feel for what this work is about and what it offers before training.
Mm-hmm. And for somebody, especially from the horse professional side, if we can move on to looking at really the most important member of this team, which is the horse, people may be thinking, do our horses need to be trained in a special way? How is the welfare of the horses looked after? Having been on the outside and the inside, I'm very aware that it's so important to make sure that the environment is correct for the horses. And that, I know, is why the model of Eagala, having the horse professional with the horses, is so important. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the horses, please.
Absolutely. As you say, the horses are the key elements of this team. So we don't train the horses specifically. We just need to make sure that the horses are not in pain, that they're in good health, that they're kind of maintained and looked after in a way that's suitable for this kind of work. So ideally to be living outdoors in a herd dynamic, so that they have teammates that they live with and relate with on a day-to-day basis. The equine specialist part of the team is the one that focuses on the welfare of the horses. So we will do, we'll have them in the arena before we work with clients, for example, and we'll do a bit of work with them, what the client would do, so that we can suss out, we know our horses very well. We know how they respond to things, because we have various equipment like hoops and swimming noodles and things like that in the arena, which a client could potentially pick up and wave at the horses. And we need to know how is the horse going to respond to that. The other key thing about the Eagala model is that horses are loose. So they're not restrained, they're not tied up, they're not controlled in any way. So they have the choice to interact in whatever way is right for them. So they also have the choice to take themselves away and not interact if they want to. I think that's kind of key, particularly around the welfare side of things. And we also, so as equine specialists, we're continually monitoring our horses. So in the same way that we monitor progress with the clients, we're also monitoring the horses and how they behave, and perhaps whether they're going to get fed up with this work and whether they need a break, or maybe they've had a heavy session and they need a little bit of time out and support for them as well. So
right. So from a therapeutic perspective, when I talk about equine, sometimes people will say, "Oh, horses don't like me," or I had a traumatic experience with a horse, but I can't go near them. Could you explain how the therapeutic process works? And I know that, no horse experience is needed to participate as a client for participation. But I suppose I'd like our audience to get a feel for what is the special relationship that happens in this process, and what does it tell us about the people that we are working with and supporting with equine.
Okay, so I think there's some key things to get across there. So our standard is 100% on the ground. So we do not do any riding, and the client doesn't need to have experience of horses. But in terms of the client that may be a little bit fearful, and obviously that's the therapist's job to kind of manage that process and manage the anxiety and, manage how the client, what kind of experience, I guess, in terms of, where they're comfortable. So, we've had clients, for example, that have observed the process outside of the arena because that's where they felt comfortable, having that barrier, the gate in between them and the horses. And in actual fact, there was as much learning in that process through what they were observing. So there are a couple of other things, solution oriented. So that means that we hold the space and enable the client to discover their own solutions. It's a team approach to mental health and equine specialists facilitating, and of course the key partner of being the horse. And there is an ethical framework with Eagala, where we hold practitioners to an ethical standard. So your question around having the horses, people that are fearful and what's the process, and I guess the other key thing is that, and different from talk therapy. So talk therapy, you're in a room, you're talking face to face. It can be quite internalizing, kind of talking about feelings and what's going on for you. And sometimes people can find that hard to express, particularly if there's been past trauma or, for children and young people, for example, where they're shut down, they just don't know how to explain their emotions. So this therapy is an experiential therapy. It's about doing and being in a space with the horses and doing. So working with the horses. And again, as I say, it doesn't necessarily have to be with the horses. It can be observing from the outside. The horses are highly, highly intuitive. They are prey animals. And so for survival, they will pick up on things that's happening in the environment that we can't necessarily see or we wouldn't necessarily pick up on. So human emotions, for example, they'll be picking up on what's going on with that person, even if they're not expressing it. And what they do is in their behaviors, they will kind of mirror, which enables us to, and again, it's very much an externalizing therapy. So we tell the client's story is told through the horses and the horse behavior. So it feels less threatening. And it's their interpretation that they put on what's happening with the horses, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes real sense. And having experienced it, it is magical. And what isn't spoken, it is shown. I think I'd like to take this time and ask you, I know that you work with young people predominantly, but that's obviously not isolated to this. Equine therapy is suitable for all age groups and across a multitude of different kind of behavioural mental health issues. But I wonder whether or not you could share with us maybe one of your own personal experiences with somebody where the therapeutic process has been transformed and that magic kind of moment, that breakthrough moment happens with the horses and the clients that you work with.
So we work specifically with children and young people, and we do get referred a lot. So children who may have had other interventions, or perhaps where there's a lack of trust, where trust with that in that therapeutic process, a stigma around it, the therapeutic process, being able to relate to the therapist and talk about, as I was saying earlier, talk about their emotions and what it is that they're feeling or what they've experienced. So we've had a young boy who came, for example, he was on the spectrum as well as having ADHD, and he came out, he'd been bullied at school, so he was a school refuser. And he came to work with the horses really just to get some healing around what he had experienced, particularly in the school environment, and was quite fearful of the horses. And so I think quickly the barrier, that trust barrier, because the trust and the relationship is built with the horses. So that kind of trust through the horses, that seems to be like a good link that enables the trust with the therapist to quickly build up. And again, because the therapists focus on the horses and the horse behaviour and what's happening with the horses, it feels less threatening. So quickly barriers can be broken down, and the young person can start to share what their story is, but through what they're seeing with the horses. So with this particular client, I think it was about the kind of 5th, 6th session, we had horses over the fence. So again, everything in the environment becomes part of the client, or can become part of the client's story. So there could be characters in the space, there could be symbols in the space. The horses become metaphors, or can become metaphors. So, again, once a client uses the horse as a metaphor, it could be a relationship in their life. For example, we then continue that through in the story, in the therapeutic process. So with this particular client, we had horses over the other side of the fence, which came over to the fence, horses interacting over the fence. And quickly he could see that one was the bully, one was himself, and another one was the friend that had to keep the friendship secret. And this kind of dynamic worked out in the arena. And as it was working out, horses were moving, and there was ears back, and there was, teeth on. This kind of relational side of this therapy role played out, and he was able to put his interpretation onto what was happening and actually label the horses in specific roles. And through that process enabled that understanding and that healing around what he had experienced.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's powerful, and anyone I ever meet, really, I always suggest that they should try and experience doing some equine therapy, just to have the experience. My last question, I think I just want to kind of come back to the horses, but just on a very light note, I just wondered whether or not you had, I know they're all superstars, but I wondered with the horses that you have at Time to Shine and that you've worked with over the years, is there one superstar that you'd just like to kind of tell us about, and why, that's been on this kind of journey with you?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, they're all superstars. They all have their own personalities. They all have their own uniqueness, their own kind of value that they bring into session. I mean, I guess one that stands out for me, and it's probably linked to my personal journey, and also my personal journey that brought me to Eagala. So when I was young, and also what enabled me to set up my business, Time to Shine. So I have dyslexia, and in my primary school years, I really, really struggled, in the kind of early primary school years, really, really, really struggled with education, felt that I was kind of being pushed into being made to learn in a particular way that I just wasn't able to learn and conform to. And I had a pony, that my pony was called Tonto. So he was a little bay pony with a white face. And he just gave me so much, that non-judgmental relationship bonds that you form. He didn't care that I was struggling at school with my learning. He just accepted me for who I was and for the value that I could bring. And that was just really powerful at that time, and really helped with my self-confidence, my self-worth, and just, really supported me kind of getting through that period. So I think still today, I link back to him and the memory of him and what he brought for me at that time. And kind of was part of my journey, if you like, on to discovering Eagala and actually bringing the power of this model to other young people that may be struggling as well. I get quite emotional, but
Can really relate to that, and I'm sure there will be a lot of people watching that. Thank you ever so much for sharing your personal experience and spending time with us. It's really important that people know, therapists, professional services, how accessible equine assisted psychotherapy work is. And I think, we have a lot to be grateful to Eagala for doing to make that, to have made it so accessible over the years. I know when I first started out, it was very thin on the ground, and it's been a joy to see it grow. I'm really looking forward to having you all at ICAD And I'm very grateful for your time this morning. So, Carrie, thank you very much. And if there's anything you'd like to say just to finish on, we'll leave it there.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for inviting us, and we're really excited to be part of the conference and looking forward to sharing some of our outcomes and research that's happening globally. So yeah, very excited. Thank you.
Thanks. So that's it from us for this session. It's exciting. We've got some incredible presenters and presentations happening, and I do so hope you can join us so you can see the power of these therapeutic models. You can always go through to icad.com to see the other speakers. Thank you and goodbye.
Make sure to visit our website www.icad.com. Tune in on Tuesday for our next episode. We'll see you then for more great, thought-provoking, courageous conversations.